Hello, I'm Hannah with Midland County Public Libraries, and today we will be reading a snippet of The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. This book is available on our online resource Hoopla. With Hoopla, you can use your library card to log in and you get 5 checkouts per month. You never have to wait in line for a book. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the next day. My stomach was all twisted in knots, and I wished I could turn into primordial ooze and seep into the ground. Rosie knew something was up because she let out little groans and nuzzled her head against my hand, soft-like. I petted the white patch between her eyes in small circles. "I know, girl," I whispered, "but Mom looked so happy." I wondered what my dad would say about the whole thing. Not that I'd ever know. I'd never even met the guy. He and Mom hadn't gotten married, and he bounced before I was born. She'd only told me 3 things about him. He was superbly handsome. Her words, not mine. He was from Mexico's Yucatan region. She'd spent time there before I was born and said the sea is like glass. And the 3rd thing, she loved him to pieces. Whatever. It was all quiet except for the crickets and my guts churning. I clicked on the lamp and sat up. On my nightstand was the Maya mythology book Mom had given me for my 8th birthday. It was part of a 5-volume set about Mexico, but this book was the coolest. I figured it was her way of showing me my dad's culture without having to talk about him. The book had a tattered green cover with big gold letters on it. The Myths and Magic of the Maya. It was filled with color illustrations and stories about the adventures of different gods, kings, and heroes. The gods sounded awesome, but authors lie all the time. I opened the book. On the end papers was an illustration of a Maya death mask made of crumbling jade, with squinted, lidless eyes and square stone teeth like tiny gravestones. I swear the face was smiling at me. "What are you looking at?" I huffed, slamming the book closed. I tossed off the covers, got up, and peered out the window. It was all shadows and silence. There was only one good thing about living on the mesa. It was 100 yards from a dead volcano, aka the Beast. Having my own volcano was about the most interesting thing in my short life. Up until that point, that is. I'd even found a secret entrance into it last month. Rosie and I were hiking down from the top, and about halfway down I heard a strangled gasp. Naturally, I went to investigate, half expecting to find a hurt animal. But when I parted the scraggly creosote branches, I discovered something else. An opening just big enough to crawl through. It led to a whole labyrinth of caves, and for half a second, I thought about calling National Geographic or something. But then I decided I would rather have a private place for Rosie and me than be on the cover of some dumb magazine. Rosie leapt off the bed when she saw me slip on my sneakers. "Come on, girl, let's get out of here." I went outside with my new warrior cane and limped past Nana's grave. She died when I was 2, so I don't remember her. I crossed the big stretch of desert zigzagging between Creosote, Ocotillo, and Yucca. The moon looked like a huge fisheye. "Maybe I could just pretend to go to school," I said to Rosie as we got closer to the Beast, a black cone rising a couple 100 yards out of the sand to meet the sky. Rosie stopped, sniffed the air. Her ears pricked. "Okay, fine. Bad idea. You have a better one?" With a whimper, Rosie inched back. "You smell something?" I said, hoping it wasn't a rattlesnake. I hated snakes. When I didn't hear the familiar rattling, I relaxed. "You're not afraid of another jackrabbit, are you?" Rosie yelped at me. "You were afraid. Don't try to deny it." She took off toward the volcano. "Hey," I called, trying to keep up. "Wait for me." I found Rosie wandering the desert 4 years ago. At the time, I figured someone had dumped her there. She was all skin and bones, and she acted skittish at first, like someone had abused her. When I begged Mom to let me keep her, she said we couldn't afford it, so I promised to earn money for dog food. Rosie was cinnamon brown like most boxers, but she had black spots all over, including on her floppy ears, which is why I was sure she had Dalmatian in her too. She only had 3 legs, so she got me and I got her. When we got to the base of my volcano, I stopped abruptly. There, in the moonlit sand, was a series of paw prints. massive, with long claws. I stepped into one of the impressions, and my size 12 foot took up only a third of the space. The paw was definitely too big to belong to a coyote. I thought maybe they were bear tracks, except bears don't cruise the desert. I kneeled to investigate. Even without the moonlight, I would have been able to see the huge prints because I had perfect eyesight in the dark. Mom called it a sacred ancestral blessing. Whatever. I called it another freak of nature thing. They look big enough to belong to a dinosaur, Rosie. She sniffed one, then another, and whimpered. I followed the trail, but it ended suddenly, like whatever creature the prints belonged to had simply vanished. Shivers crept up my spine. Rosie whimpered again, looking up at me with her soft brown eyes as if to say, "Let's get out of here." Okay, I said, just as eager as she was to get to the top of the volcano. We climbed the switchback trail, past my secret cave, which I'd camouflaged with a net of creosote and mesquite branches, toward the ridge. When we got to the top, I took in the jaw-dropping view. To the east was a glittering night sky rolling over the desert, and to the west was a lush valley dividing the city and the flat mesa, and beyond that, a looming mountain range with jagged peaks that stood shoulder to shoulder like a band of soldiers. This was pretty much my favorite place in the world. Not that I'd ever been outside New Mexico, but I read a lot. Mom always told me the volcano was unsafe, without ever really saying why, but to me it had always felt quiet and calm. It also happened to be where I trained. After the docs had said there was no way to fix my bum leg, I spent hours hiking the beast, thinking if I could just make my shorter legs stronger, maybe my limp would be less noticeable. No such luck. But by walking the rim's edge, I learned how to be a boss at balancing, and that's a handy skill when you get shoved around by kids at school. I set down my cane and began teetering along the rim of the crater while holding my arms out to my sides. Mom would kill me if she knew I did this. One slip and I'd tumble 50 feet down the rocky hill. Rosie cruised behind me, sniffing the ground. "How about I pretend to be sick?" I said, still stuck on how to get out of Holy Ghost school. "Or I could release rats into the cafeteria. There can't be school if there's no food, right?" Did Catholic schools even have a cafeteria? The only problem was, my ideas would only buy me a day or two. A low rumble rolled across the sky. Rosie and I both stopped in our tracks and looked up. A small aircraft zoomed over the beast, turned, and came back. I stepped away from the crater's edge, craning my neck to get a better look. I waved, hoping the pilot could see me, but he didn't come near enough. Instead, he started zigzagging like a crazy person. I thought maybe he was borracho until he circled back perfectly for another run. Forgive me, I'm white. This time he came in tighter. Just when I thought the pilot was going to pull up, he pointed the plane's nose toward the center of the crater. The wings were so close to me I could practically see the screws holding them together. The plane's thrust shook the ground, sending me stumbling, but I caught myself. Then something started glowing inside the cockpit, an eerie yellowish blue light. Except what I saw had to have been some kind of a hallucination or an optical illusion, because there was no pilot. There was a thing. An alien head thing with red bulging eyes, no nose, and a mouth filled with long, sharp fangs. Yeah, that's right. An alien demon dude was flying the plane right into the beast's mouth. Everything happened in sickeningly slow motion. I heard a crash, and a fiery explosion rocked the world big enough to make even the planets shake. I did a drop roll as flames burst from the top of the volcano. Rosie yelled, "Rosie!" And before I knew it, I was tumbling down, down, down away from the beast, away from my dog, and away from life as I knew it. If that interested you at all, this book is available at our libraries and online on Hoopla. Thanks for watching.